Welcome. Let me know tonight if you're on in the chat, if you're here with me, if you haven't already said something. Thank you for joining me. We are live Tuesday. It is the 21st, and believe it or not, it is the last day of summer. That blows my mind that summer can already be over. I got my phone up here, the volume, so we turn that down. So let me know if the lip sync is good. I'm going to look at it here for a second. Yeah, it's funny because last week I had 5 frames of delay. Hi, Adam. Thank you for joining me. Craig, thank you for joining me from Fort Worth. Also, we have, I'm going to say it's Hepsio. I can't pronounce that, but always calls me Dad, evidently. You know, that's one of those things. So, Adam, we've talked about lip sync before. It's weird. Last week, I got all these comments that my lips were off. Then I played the video back after it was all over, after I dialed it back from 4 frames of delay to 0. And it seemed like everything in last week's video was in sync. So let me know if the lips are in sync in the chat, and I will watch for that and we can make those adjustments. I did a quick recording. The way you check that is you go ahead and plug in a disc and you go ahead and hit record. And I have this test that I do. Then I play it back in my Windows PC. And yes, I'm mostly Windows here. I do have my iPhone and my iPad, and I do have Mix Effects open as usual. Mix Effect, no S at the end. So again, if the lips are on, let me know in the chat. I'm still waiting for someone to tell me if they're on. I'll talk a little bit about why I'm waiting for that, where we're headed tonight. We're gonna talk about some cable management. I attended 2 live streams last week where I joined them just like you're joining. And in that live stream that I joined, again, welcome to tonight's live stream if you just joined me. And I will look at the chat here because I'm trying to make sure my lips are in sync. But where we're headed tonight is we're going to talk about some cable management. I attended 2 live streams last week. And the topic came up both live streams, and it was quite interesting. You know, the conversation about cables. I was on Aaron Parecki's channel with his live stream on Sunday. I got in late, but again, he talked about his cables in the back of his desk, and it made me immediately think about my cables. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about cable management tonight and what I've started. Also, we're going to look at integrating the ATEM Mini Pro and the ATEM Mini Extreme. I'm actually combining everything. So I thought I'm going to go ahead and combine everything and make some adjustments. And the reason for my adjustments is I don't have one HyperDeck now. I have my HyperDeck Mini. And now I also received, and last week we unboxed in my live show, my HyperDeck Studio HD PLUS. And I do have a few observations tonight. We'll talk about that. It takes me about 2 weeks to really wrap my head around a new device. And so I have been using it almost every day. It's all installed. I'll show you that here on my desk, right where I had it last week, but I made a few adjustments. And so we'll talk about that tonight. Also, some first impressions. And I am working on the HyperDeck series. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So stay tuned. Sync looks good. Thank you for giving me that info, Craig. So Adam's going to be on here shortly. So if you have any quick questions for Adam Tao, he's the designer of the app Mix Effect. If you haven't used that app yet, it helps you on an iPhone, iPad, or a iPod Touch. It helps you operate remotely. I'm completely remote. My iPad's in my wireless network, and I can operate Mix Effects from right here. I also have my macros open on my control software. So we're going to talk about how I'm combining the Pro, ATEM Mini Pro, and the ATEM Mini Pro, or ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, because I have both of those in my studio. I was using my Pro just to be kind of a matrix to send different things to monitors. I realized I really didn't need to go that direction because I have 2 outputs on the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. And if you did not know that, you have 2 HDMI outputs on the new Extreme and the new Extreme ISO, and they're both matrix. So you can send whatever input to those channels, including your color bars. And it's quite useful to be able to send different things. Like if I'm in a Zoom call right? I want to be able to see Zoom, then I'll use my desktop and bring desktop up to this monitor. Right now, I have program open. I'm watching what you're watching, and I'm recording, and I'm recording ISO tonight. So we're going to talk about that. And then I also want to have a little bit of a Q&A. So we're going to cover the coupling the two ATEMs together, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the HyperDeck, some things that I've learned this week. Adam, if you don't get a chance to finish this, watch that part back. That'll be part 2 tonight. And we'll talk just a little bit about some things I saw that are different in the control software. And so we'll have to sort that out. I haven't done a lot of testing yet in Mix Effect. If you didn't know this, Adam updated Mix Effect a while back, a couple months now, to where you can operate the HyperDecks from the app, which is great. You can change discs. The only way to change discs right now is to push buttons or push discs on the HyperDecks. And but in Mix Effect, you can actually change discs. So they have 2 discs in them. Mine just have the SD cards. You can get the the bigger discs in the bigger Pro versions. And you can also get 4K in a HyperDeck, but I'm just mainly, I have 4K in mine for recording. I can 4K output, but I'm really just using it to stream in these live streams as well as recording here in the studio. So, and then again, cable management, we're going to talk about a little bit about that. I know that no one likes cable management, so I'm going to touch on that tonight. And then we're going to also talk about my HyperDeck series and a little bit of what's coming up in the next couple of weeks on the live stream, as well as some videos that I have planned. One of them I'm working on right now, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, so let's talk right now about the ATEM Mini Pro. The ATEM Mini Pro has 4 channels, just like the Mini. ATEM Mini has 4 inputs, and then it has 1 HDMI output. The Mini will only do program out, but when you get to the ATEM Mini Pro and the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, you get then multi-view out, and multi-view is great. You can see my multi-view back here, and I can put the program back here. I can put the multi-view. This MSI monitor has 3 inputs, so I'm looking forward to adding a 3rd input, which is going to be my PC. And so I'll be able to put my PC over here, and I want to integrate my other computer into my live streams as well, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that. So 4 inputs in the ATEM Mini, ATEM Mini Pro, ATEM Mini Pro ISO. The main difference between the Minis and the Pro ISO, as far as what they'll do, again, HDMI out. You can also record and encode and stream directly from the ATEM Mini Pro and ATEM Mini Pro ISO. And then if you jump up to the Extreme, which came available just a little over like 6 or 7 months ago, I think 8 months ago now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that has 8 inputs, 2 HDMI outs, 2 USB-Cs. So you can record to a SSD drive like this one, and you can record to these, and you can also then use it as a webcam at the same time, where the ATEM Mini, the only way you can stream from that little device is through some software, because it doesn't encode and it doesn't have the ability to stream directly from it. So you have to then go into some software. But in the Pro and the Pro ISO, you not only have the 4 inputs, you can encode, and you can also record out of the USB-C port. The ISO is different than the Pro, because it will record all of the inputs, including what's in the media player, and it'll make an XML file that you can simply open up, transfer all that from your disk into DaVinci Resolve, and you can open that whole project open up in there. And then if you're recording directly on 4K cameras from Blackmagic Design, you can then replace, like proxies, right? You can replace that footage that you recorded in your ATEM Mini Pro ISO. You can replace all those files with the actual footage from the cameras. Now, obviously, if you're recording your desktop or you're recording some other input in that ISO device other than cameras, then you're going to have whatever those recordings are, unless you could record whatever that device is. So those 4 inputs on those devices are very valuable, and many of us ran out. Like if you want to have 3 cameras, a HyperDeck, which takes 2 inputs, if you're going to have a key channel, so you have to have 2 inputs, so that's 5. So I ran out of inputs pretty quickly with my ATEM Mini Pro. That's why I dove in and went ahead and got the Extreme. And the Extreme has 8 inputs, 2 USB-C outputs. You also have the ability to have a headphone jack, which you don't have in any of the ATEM little minis, the Pro, the Mini, the Pro ISO. And then also in the Extreme, you have those 2 HDMI outs, the Matrix, which are great. And some other features in there too, way more buttons than you could ever need, but that's 8 inputs. And then if you also use the ATEM Mini Pro, which I'm going to do here in the studio, then you can add other devices and bring those in by using one of those 8 channels in your Extreme or your Extreme ISO, whichever you have. And you can use up one of those inputs and then bring in those other 4 inputs in from your ATEM Mini Pro. And if you do the math, just using the inputs there, then you're gonna lose 1 in your Extreme, but you're gonna gain back 4 in your Pro. So I have a little still image tonight that I wanna bring up here, and I'm pretty sure I created a macro for this. Let's just see if this works. Yep, there it is. So here's my still image. I could be using my ATEM Mini Pro right now to put my graphic on the bottom, and that's the other thing I really like about is that I can use the program out, bring it into my feed, and bring in a graphic. I would have to do some tricks to do that and use the DVE, but I can do that. So this is the setup that I have right now. Let me bring that still up on my screen so I can actually see it with you. Bill, thank you for joining me. Let me know if my lips are in sync where you are, Bill. That's Bill Serino. It's okay. Thanks you for coming. I don't care if you're late. You can watch it back, but we've got lots of cool things that we're going to cover tonight. So again, Adam's in the chat. So if you have any questions about Mix Effect, go ahead and shout out to Adam. I don't mind if those conversations are going on in the background. So this is the layout. These are the inputs that I have, and I'm bringing this up on my desktop here. Because I can't see the little screen clear across there. So input 1, and I have notes right here. I sat down this week and went through everything in my studio, every device I have, everything that I wanted to use. And I literally walked through this in my head a number of times so that I could be sure that this is how I wanted to set it up. And then I had to make a list of things I needed to order. And I'll talk about that here in a minute. So now that I have, let me zoom out here. Now that I have this open on my laptop, input 1 is my Canon 5D Mark III. That's my Skycam. So I would have to leave this window and go into channel 3 on my Extreme. So if you look over on the right-hand side, that's the inputs and the outputs of the Extreme. The left-hand side is the inputs of my ATEM Mini Pro. And you can see above the inputs, I have 1 HDMI output coming out of my Pro. I did not put the USB-C outputs there. We'll talk about that in a video I'm going to do specifically on this setup that will be uploaded to my channel very soon. But this is mainly going to focus on the inputs I'm using, how I'm integrating the two, and why. So what I did is I looked at things I don't use a lot, like my Canon 5D Mark III, which is input number 1, times out after about 29 minutes. And I do have a battery pack in it. And it just shuts off and you have to flip it off and back on again. It's on right now, so I could cut to that. Now I can't just cut to it in my Extreme anymore. I have to make 2 cuts. I have to cut to channel 3. So if you jump over to the Extreme side in the dialogue, in the graphic right here, you'll see over there that channel 3 is coming from my ATEM Mini Pro. So I've taken up channel 3 in my Extreme ISO to be able to bring in everything HDMI into my Extreme. So now that helps me bring in both graphics. It would have to be on, that graphic would have to be on whatever I was showing. So if I wanted to cut to my camera 3, I would just simply hit 3 on my, or I would hit camera 1 input on my ATEM Mini Pro. And I usually leave it set up that way because that's the input I'll probably bring in the most. And then I would cut to that camera. And then I could bring up a lower thirds from my Extreme keys, or I could bring up a lower thirds right from the ATEM, which gives me another downstream key or an upstream key, depending on which I want to use. But I only have one media player, but I could have still images in there. So I could fill it up with still images, and I could also cut to those. And if I brought those up on the screen, I could also bring them into SuperSource because channel 3 would be my ATEM Mini Pro. I can also stream from the ATEM Mini Pro out to someplace, because if you look at input number 4, that is going to be a switch. And I have some of those switches in the studio. I'll show you those when we do a tour of my desk and show you the HyperDeck setup. But I'll be able to switch between the program input, so I could stream that if I wanted to go to another location and stream to YouTube like I am right now, and also to Facebook, or I could use it to come out that way. And I also can use it as a mobile cam. Right now I don't have my mobile camera hooked up because I'm using all of my splitters, not a switch, but splitters. So you have one HDMI in and they're split out twice. I have another splitter coming we'll talk about in a little bit. But so those are the inputs in the Pro. So you have input 1, Canon 5D Mark III, Skycam. That's the one that shoots down at my desk. Input number 2 is going to be the streaming bridge. And if you don't know anything about the streaming bridge, that allows me to broadcast from my ATEM Mini Extreme or my ATEM Mini Pro. I can stream directly to the streaming bridge, or I can give that information to a guest who has a ATEM Mini Pro, a web presenter, Extreme and Extreme ISO, ATEM Mini Pro ISO. All of those will broadcast directly to the streaming bridge, and I can bring a guest in through my ATEM Mini Pro as well, and then I would just have that be what's on input number 3. So not only will I have that ability, but also in input number 3, I'm coming out of input number 1. Obviously, I'm going to split it again. And that input number 1 in my Extreme comes back in to my ATEM Mini Pro. And what that lets me do is share multi-view. I can also share the multi-view from the ATEM Mini Pro, believe it or not, if I come in through the program out of the ATEM Mini Pro. So I can go in, change the output in the ATEM Mini Pro to multi-view, and then bring that program in through input number 4, switch to that, and then I can show you the multi-view from my ATEM Mini Pro. So for me, for training people how to use the ATEM Mini Pro, how to be able to get on Zoom, to be able to show my extra camera, to be able to bring my mobile phone in either through the Pro, or I can bring it into the HyperDecks as well. And I've talked about that before on my channel, because the HyperDecks have a input. And now the new HyperDeck Studio HD PLUS, which I just added, actually has a HDMI input and an SDI input. So now I don't even have to use my adapter that I bought, that I used in my HyperDeck. I can actually plug in a regular HDMI cable right in the back of my HyperDeck, switch into record mode, and it brings up my mobile camera, and I'll be using my mobile camera through my new HyperDeck tonight, just to demo that in a little bit. So that's the Pro coming in and how things come back to it, like the multi-view from my Extreme. So again, that's what's nice about having all those HDMI outputs. The first one from the Pro can come in to my Extreme in channel 3, and then I have those 2 outputs in my ATEM Mini Extreme, and that's on the right-hand side of the picture. And that can be brought in anywhere. I can send those, whatever I want to send, anywhere in my studio, and we'll talk about where those inputs go, and they're already on the screen. So input number 1 in my Extreme is my EOS R, and that's the camera over here. And I'll cut to these here in a minute. And then I have my streaming bridge remote guest. I'm sorry, my Canon 5D Mark IV, which is I'm using right now. This is input number 2. Input number 3, we've already talked about. That's coming in from my ATEM Mini Pro out of the output. And I have it set right now in the control software for the Pro as program out. And again, I can go in and switch that if I wanted to. And the only reason I would probably do that at this point would be to bring in the ATEM Mini Pro multi-view so I could bring that into my show. And I would do that through input number 3. Input number 4 is going to be my Extreme program and mobile, I'm sorry, my laptops. I apologize. And then input number 5 and 6 are my new HyperDeck. I call it HyperDeck number 2. And you can see I'm taking up 2 channels, the fill channel and the key channel. And I'm going to demo motion graphics out of 2 HyperDecks at the same time in a macro. So don't run off. You're going to get a chance to see 2 HyperDecks working through the upstream key and a downstream key all simultaneously. And then input number 7 and 8, which has been the way my studio has been set up for the longest time, is my HyperDeck number 1. Now, it doesn't make a lot of sense maybe to you, and I've thought about switching them up, putting my new HyperDeck in channels 5 and 6, and then putting and then putting my old HyperDeck Mini in 7 and 8, or no, the reverse of that, sorry. I'm even getting confused, there's so many inputs, but reversing that, because right now it basically goes HyperDeck number 2, my new one is in 5 and 6, and 7 and 8 is my older HyperDeck Mini. But what I have found is that they can do the same graphics, the same motion graphics. They both can record. The advantage of the new Studio HD PLUS, which I have now, is that it's got better buttons. And so let's just talk about that here real quick. The HyperDeck and kind of where I'm going with that, I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that I've already learned, and that is that it's a great tool. I love it. It takes up more space on my desk. I actually put it where I had my Stream Deck, and right now I have my Stream Deck on top. And so let me show you that layout here real quick. So I'm going to cut to my mobile cam. Yeah, I'll come back to that question here in a second, Bill. I saw that. Great question. And I'll just reiterate that here. I'm going into Filmic Pro. I'm going to turn my camera so that it's landscape here. This is my camera. I was using it to watch the chat. My phone is getting multi-used in my studio. And then in order to switch to this, I'm going to have to leave multi-view. And so I'm going to cut back to this view. Should work. There we go. And then my camera's live right now, so I have to switch to record. So you push the record button in the HyperDeck. And so you're gonna, let me just switch to this and I'll let you guys watch me push record and you'll see what's gonna happen. So we know that HyperDeck number 2 is in channel 4. So let me switch to that. Nope, sorry, that's my desktop. So it's playing that graphic right now, so I'm gonna hit stop. I'm gonna push record. And now you see, I have a mobile camera. Now I could put this in multi-view, but I'm just gonna talk while you guys look at that. So this is my HyperDeck Mini, and this is my new HD Plus. It's the Studio HD Plus. And you can see the buttons are quite a bit different. They both have 2 SD cards. I'm using both of these tonight. Again, the HyperDeck is in channel 7 and 8 using a fill and a key. And then this is in 5 and 6 using a fill and a key. But I do love the fact that I can monitor by pushing the button. You'd have to unplug the headphones, but I actually have a pair of headphones in tonight, so I can listen to what's in the HyperDeck if I wanted to. If this is unplugged, then I can hold the button down and hear it as well, either way. And then the button layout is a little nicer. I love the fact that the search buttons are over here, or if you go over here, you don't have a search button. You also can go into remote control. I have to go into the menu system in the old HyperDeck Mini if I want to get into that remote view. And I apologize, it's just a bit overexposed. That's a little better. So, but I'm not going to do that right now. So I can just turn remote on and off with the button on the front, which I absolutely love. And then just more buttons. And you can see right now when you're in record mode and it doesn't light up, it just is in record mode. It actually shows me what I have going into the HDMI input. And if I want to use the SDI input, like I talked about last week, I can switch to the SDI input. And then I love the dark mode, and I love the fact that it has the ability to see the same things that I can see on my Mini up on top. It's just way easier to see it in dark mode, as you can see right there. So let's cut back. So then I put my Stream Deck on top, and I use mainly that to control my lights. So let's cut back to camera 2 so you're not looking just at my desk. So I have 2 HyperDecks now. I've got them integrated into my Extreme. And the one thing I did notice, let me switch back to this. Maybe Adam's still on here. Oh, I guess I can show that right now. I'd have to hook my mobile camera up differently. But when you push play on the HyperDecks, you push it once, it starts playing the video or the graphic. You push it twice, it goes into like a loop mode. And you push it again, it goes into like looping through everything you have on that disc. It won't switch to disc number 2, but it will loop through all those files. What I noticed is that it's different on the HyperDeck Studio HD PLUS. When you push it once, it goes into play mode. When you push it twice, it does loop, but it also puts up the little loop icon with the number 1. And that's going to be interesting. I'm going to be doing some testing, and I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with that, that feature, if it's going to create issues or not. And I'm getting that, let me switch back out of record mode into play mode. I'm going to get this graphic ready. So one of the cool things about, oops, let's go back. Stop, go back, hit play, stop, skip, hit play, and loop, loop. So one of the things that I really like about having 2 HyperDecks is that you can design some new graphics. So let me see if this macro works. So there you go. You have a motion background playing in my new HyperDeck, and you have this animated life journey graphic playing in my old HyperDeck. So this is just one example of how you could use multiple effects like this. Now, I don't have this macro perfected, so I've got to manually turn some things off here. So let me turn that off, and switch back to camera 2 here. Sorry about that. And I'll turn my key back on here. So that's a use case scenario for 2 HyperDecks. So what Bill asked, let me get back into my notes here, or my chat. Bill was asking, how would you use the Extreme multi-view input into the Pro? Well, because I'm coming back from my Pro into channel 3, what that does is I will rarely ever use multi-view and my Skycam and my streaming bridge at the same time, and even showing the program or multi-view from the ATEM Mini Pro. So what I decided to do is take those 4 inputs, my Skycam, my streaming bridge, which I rarely use. I am going to start using it more, testing it to bring in guests remotely. And then my multi-view from my Extreme, right? Because you can bring a multi-view into a channel in your Extreme to show it. And that's exactly what I'm doing. My Pro HDMI out comes in built to my channel 3 in my Extreme. So I already have that Pro coming in. So I'm feeding it and I'm splitting that output. That multi-view goes to my BenQ monitor. Let me show you that real quick here. Go back to this camera real quick. I'm gonna hit record again on my HyperDeck. Make sure that's working. I'm gonna cut to camera 5. And so my multi-view is up there right now. I'm also feeding the multi-view back there. And so I got multi-view that way when I'm using this camera, and I've got multi-view that way when I'm using this camera. And I usually have program up, that's what you're seeing on those two monitors, though I can now switch that to be anything I want. So again, coming out of my Extreme into my ATEM Mini Pro in channel 3, and then I'll send the program out of my ATEM Mini Pro back into channel 3 for all of those inputs. So streaming bridge, Canon 5D Mark III, Skycam, and all of that. So let's demo it right now. Now I can't show you my streaming bridge, but I will be able to show you the other two inputs. I got to make one switch here real quick. I do have a new switch coming that will split everything for me 4 ways, but I've got to get my multi-view on my display here right now. And I'm waiting for it to come up. It's going to come up here in a second. When I switch that switch now, it changes all of my monitors, and it takes a while for them to refresh. So I'm just going to pause here to see if they come up. And if they don't, oh, you know what? I know what's going on here. My Skycam is off. So let me go back to the other view. Turn my Skycam back on here, which again is my 5D Mark III, and it times out after 29 minutes. So we know how long we've been on here. It is 33 minutes into the stream. So now what I'm seeing on my multi-view right now, and I can show you guys this. Let me switch cameras here. What I'm seeing on my multi-view in channel 3 right now is my Skycam, and that is right over here. Let's get this logo out of the way. That's right over here, and I have red, which I'm live on input number 1. So now if I want to bring multi-view in, which is ready, so right now I don't have any multi-view because I'm still waiting for a splitter to come, and it doesn't bring up my multi-view in channel number 3. If I cut to number 4, I get the program out because I'm feeding the program back out. I'm going to cut back to channel 3. It's going to be blank here for a minute in the screen, and I'm showing you on the screen because I'm going to push this switch right here. And I'm going to see multi-view. So there's my multi-view now, and I can bring that into the show by cutting on this device to, there you go. Now you guys have multi-view because I cut to channel 3. Now that multi-view is up there, I'll cut back to channel 1 on my ATEM Mini Pro, and you're going to see my Skycam. And if I cut to channel 4, you're going to see the program again. And so nothing changes. Oh, let's see, did it switch? In channel 3. Multi-view. Channel 4. Yeah, it's just going to be the program out, which is multi-view right now. So, cut back to my Skycam so you can see down on my desk as well as my notes. And I'll cut back to channel 5. So again, coming into channel 3 is everything coming from the ATEM Mini Pro. So if I switch these channels, if I'm in channel 3, like I am right now, showing you my HyperDeck, I'm in channel 5, but channel 3 is ready. If I was in channel 3, all of this stuff over here will come in. And so if I wanted to bring a guest in, that would be in channel 2. My stream bridge comes in the back there through HDMI, and I would be able to bring that guest in on channel 3. I could put them in super source through channel 3. Again, 4 is my desktop. 1 and 2 are my 2 cameras. Camera 1 is the ESR right here. I'll cut to that, which is my desk cam. I can cut back to my mobile cam because it's cutting to my channel 5, which is this HyperDeck right there. It's in record mode, so it shows the HDMI input. And so back to the desk cam, which is my USR, and then my main cam, which is right there. So all of that I'm able to control now, and it gives me more options and just more capability in the studio, because I still want to have a mobile camera. I want to be able to send HDMI output to, matrix it to whatever output, to whatever camera. And so again, I have to split those around here. So let's switch this back so you guys don't have to see me twice. Hopefully I have this set up right. This should come back to multi-view. So that's the desktop setup there. Try this one more time. I wish I had a remote switch for this MSI monitor, but again, once you get the hang of it, you understand what you're doing. So I am using some switches. Let me show you guys these real quick. I think it's important. You saw me switch one, but I have one right here on my desk to help me with my HyperDeck. So let's switch to that input. Did I lose it? Yeah, I did. Let's go into play mode. Let's go into record mode. So one of the reasons I want to have the camera hooked up all the time in the ATEM Mini Pro, and then only use the HyperDeck when I want to do some stuff. And if I want to get 2 more cameras in, I can switch in both HyperDecks over to record mode, which would give me the input. And then I can bring what those HyperDecks see on the screen through channel 4 and, channel 5, and it'll also be in 6. And you can see right now that the HyperDeck Phil and Key show the video that I have on my phone right here. And my other HyperDeck, when I have a video or graphic playing, shows it on both sides. If it has a key, it'll show it. If it only has a fill, it'll show it. So if I switch over, let me switch cameras here. Sorry about that. So again, I'll show you this. So here you have the HyperDeck 2 and HyperDeck Key 2 and 5 and 6 are showing me what's on the phone. And over on the other side is my old HyperDeck Mini, and it's showing me this animated graphic that you guys saw earlier. And so on this side, I can show you what's in HyperDeck number 1. But what if I want to switch to HyperDeck number 2? I just push this button right here, because I have the HDMI coming out of the HyperDeck, and then I have it split to 2 coming in, HyperDeck 1 and 2 coming in, and then 1 coming out. So I can switch what's on that screen. So I'll push the button, and it's going to switch from input 1 to 2. And now you can see the intimate, forever view. So I'll switch back to play mode. And now that's the graphic that's playing on my other HyperDeck. And so I'll switch back to this so that you can see that that graphic is playing right there. So right there is my phone. And then if I switch back, then I'm back to the other HyperDeck right here. And it's now playing what's in HyperDeck number 1. So I can switch between the two HyperDecks. It's kind of hard to show you with my mobile phone because my mobile phone gives you that infinite view. So my BenQ has 4 inputs. One input on the top right is my multi-view. On the bottom is my desktop, so I can bring the control software over. On the top left, I can switch between HyperDeck 1, HyperDeck 2, and the bottom left is my PC, and my PC is going to be brought into my future broadcasts in the future, so I can do things like show the chat and all of that, which I really want to be able to do, and I need more buttons to push is what I need. So let's go back into you guys, what you're saying here in the chat. Stop and think. Thank you for joining me. Craig, thank you for joining me. For your HDMI splitter, you might want to get an HDMI EDID emulator pass-through adapter. If your splitter seems to get lost, tracking connects and powers off. Yeah, I would love to know. If you have a link to that, Craig, would you put it in the chat tonight? That would be great. I will look at that. I do have a Ori matrix splitter coming. So 1 HDMI in, 4 HDMI outs. And I'm going to use that for this monitor above this camera, this monitor above that camera. It's also going to go into this monitor. And it's also going to go into my my BenQ. So that way I can not have to have a bunch of these 1 to 2 splitters. I can get rid of 2 of those, which I'm going to use for other stuff. You already saw that I want to bring my phone and program into my ATEM Mini Pro into channel 4. So I'll be able to do that with one of those splitters, and that new 4 output, 1 input splitter comes tomorrow, I believe, and I've got a couple other things coming tomorrow. So now let's jump into something I think is just crazy. So the HyperDeck is integrated in my studio now. I have some pieces coming. I have that 1 input, 4 output Ori splitter. I think it was like $49 for their newer version that's 4K 60 hertz. I'm looking forward to getting that, so I'll be able to come out of my Extreme and split it 4 ways instead of I'm using 2, 1 in and 2 outs, but you lose one of those when you do that. So you got to come out of the first one to another splitter. So you just lost one. So once I get this new Ori this week, I'll be able to have all 4 monitors plugged in all the time. And then I gain 2 of those splitters back. So instead of buying more 1 in and 2 out splitters, I went ahead and invested in a 4, almost bought 2 of them because I can think of other uses for that. So it's crazy, all the things that you do to integrate 2 ATEMs, but I'm excited because once I integrate this into my thought process, I'll be able to do some really quick switching, and I can switch pretty quickly into the ATEM Mini Pro software on the desktop. And that's the one part of the integration that I'm still working on. And it'll be interesting, Adam, if I can create some companion buttons with my Stream Deck that will be able to do all of those devices, run all those devices. The other advantage, guys, of having my PC integrated is that it can see my ATEM Mini Pro. So I can have the software open on my PC, and I have a keyboard right here. And my mouse is plugged in right now, charging. It was completely dead, so I'm not using that mouse tonight. So I'll be able to integrate that in my show, and that'll let me have a copy of the ATEM Mini Pro software open, and also the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO software open. And so if I want to do any quick things, I'll be able to see the ATEM Mini Pro software right here, left and right. So the ATEM Mini Pro on the left and the ATEM Mini Pro on the right of my BenQ monitor, because I can split it into 4 separate inputs and see them all at one time. And I absolutely love that BenQ monitor. So let's go through here and see if there's any questions. And I will check on that emulator. I gave you an example. Exposure looks a little hot. Yeah, that's probably true. I rewired my Stream Deck, Adam, and let's see, I think I can go minus here. So hopefully that's a little better. Thank you for pointing that out, Adam. So I don't have auto ISO on my EOS, on my Canon 5D Mark IV, just because of the fact that it throws everything off. So I'll have to have 2 versions of Mix Effects open at the same time, on which I could do that with an iPhone. I'm thinking about getting an iPad or an iPod. I have another iPad. It's the version 1. I don't think that's compatible. I haven't tried it yet. But thank you for that, Adam. Hey, Tony from Quick Tech Solutions, LLC. Been working up to today. Did you do the fan upgrade? No, that's a perfect segue. Thank you for that, Tony. Tony did a upgrade video on his HyperDeck Mini. That's the older version. It voids your warranty. And I ordered the fan. It is here. And so I'm getting ready to do this install. It will void my warranty. So FYI, if you do a fan upgrade in your HyperDeck, but Tony did this upgrade. He did a DB test. So go over to his channel and watch that HyperDeck fan install. I learned so much. I went to Home Depot today and bought some shrink wrap and some connectors, and I already have soldering and all that stuff because of my recording studio. I soldered hundreds and hundreds of wires in those days. And so I know that process, but Tony walks us through that and does a DB test before and after. And I'm looking forward to hearing the DB test with the cover back on. So I have not done that update yet, but that's one of the things that I'm going to share here on the channel. I'm not going to do this update live because I use both HyperDecks all the time. I use my Mini to do my intro and outro reel, and now I'm going to be using my other HyperDeck Studio HD PLUS, which you saw on my desk, my new one. I'm going to be using that for other things, graphics, fly-in graphics, background animations, and then I also want to bring in an input of the program and record there as well as a backup. So I'm recording right now on my ATEM Mini Extreme, but I also want to be able to record from there. And then when I'm streaming to someone else's HyperDeck or streaming bridge from one of my devices, then I could then record that. Or if I'm using it in Zoom and I've got my ATEM Mini Pro going into my PC, because I can do Zoom into my PC through my Pro output, USB-C output. I can also do a Zoom call into my laptop from my Extreme USB-C output. So anyway, that's kind of why I'm doing that, so I can leave my ATEM Mini Pro hooked up all the time to my PC so I can use it as another webcam, and it would be that view right there. Again, so there's lots of things. And I can also use my HyperDeck Studio HD PLUS as a input through USB-C, like a webcam. So if I was in a Zoom call and or using OBS, I would be able to have my video play from my HyperDeck Studio HD PLUS, and I could also have my ATEM Mini Extreme showing this view right here and doing the switching. So I would be able to feed that into OBS. I'd also be able to switch cameras in Zoom or any other streaming type software. So that's pretty cool that the new HyperDecks all have that extra USB-C ability to do webcam out. So again, make sure if you do get a HyperDeck Studio HD PLUS and you buy the new converters that you update them. There is a new update out for the SD to HDMI converters. So make sure you do the update, and that's supposed to fix some issues in the firmware from way back. So we have talked about everything except for this next thing pretty much. And that is cable management. I was in 2 streams I shared earlier where cable management was kind of this taboo conversation. No one wants to talk about it. We're all adding equipment. We're throwing more and more power supplies, more and more power cables, more and more USB-C cables, more and more HDMI, SDI, converters. I have my Stream Deck underneath my desk. I have 2 switches underneath my desk. I should invest in a big Unify switch for my studio. I have those in my house, but I have a 8-port switch over in my rack over there, which runs my TV, my Xbox, my Apple TV, and my cable. And then also my TV comes in for updates into that switch as well. And then I have 2 4-port switches underneath my desk, and all of those cat cables. It's crazy. So here's a picture. I think this cable mess video I'm about to play should tell it all. Let's see if it rolls from Mix Effects right now. Nope, that didn't work. Let's go back to that view. Let me cue this video up. It's queued, but it didn't switch. So let me switch right now to channel 7. Well, now you can see the disaster area under my desk. I did purchase those baskets. That's a project for tomorrow. I got them mounted yesterday. Today we had some craziness here at the Bennett Ranch at Life Journey Production Studios, which is in my house. So we had to attend to those things. So I didn't get to do any more organizing, but I wanted you guys to see that I purchased those baskets. It comes with a 23-inch and a 19-inch. I put the 2 23s on the long side of my desk and the 2 19s on the other side of my desk. The 23-inch baskets, because I'm in a closet here with that part of my desk and I have about 11 inches to the wall, I turn those baskets backwards. It gives me more ability to get my ATEMs further off of my desk, way in the back, and then those cables will be able to be managed down through those baskets. I plan on strapping the power supplies to the back of those baskets, not in them. I plan on putting my converters and my 6G converter inside those baskets, and I'm going to organize the HDMI cables. So when I bought the baskets, they came with these little feet thing. They almost look like feet that you would put like on the bottom of a HyperDeck. But what I love about them is the baskets came with these as well, and they have a slot in them, and you can stick those on. They have a sticky thing. So great for USB-Cs. And then I've been Velcroing with industrial Velcro, and I bought some more today. This came with my Aperture MC lights. So each one of the MC lights came with 2 of these, which is great. I've been using them. So my little door stops are attached to the bottom of my 2 HyperDecks. I'm going to attach the door stops, rubber door stops, which I use to tilt up my ATEM Mini Extreme. And then because my new HyperDeck has 2 of my door stops that I purchased for my ATEM Mini Pro, I have 2 more coming either today in the mail, I haven't checked UPS yet, or tomorrow. And I'll be adding Velcro, longer pieces of Velcro to the bottom of my ATEM Mini Pro door stops, and then those feet don't move. And then eventually I will attach the ATEM Mini Pro, the Extreme ISO, probably to my desk some way. I haven't decided yet. I'm looking at maybe possibly having a rack, which I could incorporate here. But I like the fact that my HyperDecks are so close. I mean, they're within reach, so I can be on the microphone and I don't have to reach way back. So a rack is too far away, and that's why I want to upgrade that fan on my HyperDeck Mini, because that is the loudest thing, period, in my studio. So I'm looking forward to having the experience that Tony has in his studio. Cool. So tomorrow, Tony's going to have sound samples of his HyperDeck with the lid on. Adam's saying hi to Tony. If you haven't seen the video yet, Tony and I and Adam, we're on Adam Tao's channel. So if you haven't subscribed to Tony's channel or Adam's channel, head on over there and subscribe to their channels. And also check out the other people that are on live here, so that you can see their channels. But Adam and I and Tony did a video. Adam talked about how he's bringing guests in. Tony and I were his test subjects. And you know, it was a test video, so not everything went perfect. I think Adam said some audio sync was off, but you know, it's just how it is when you do live and you're testing equipment. And what better way to do it with other people watching? It makes you feel like a fool, right? But you guys get to experience that it doesn't always go perfect. And I spend hours getting ready for my live streams, but it still doesn't mean things are going to work when I want them to work. So again, it's a lot of the trial and error, and practice makes perfect. And that's kind of what this experience is all about. It came with some of these little adapters. Well, these are Velcro. So I've had these before. These are kind of typical that come with microphones, higher end microphones. But there's, I don't know, the basket came with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 16 of these. And they go into each other. So I'll use this for organizing cables. I'm also going to use, like I said, the baskets. I also have different types of Velcro. And my goal is to get everything mounted. My switches are going to be mounted with Velcro. Right now, they're just strapped underneath my desk, and you can look at that video footage again. I even have those pictures in my still image. So those baskets are going to really come in handy. Again, it took about 40 minutes to get it all mounted, and it'll be a blast getting that all done this week. And I'll show you a video footage next week of how beautiful it's going to look underneath my desk. Now, I do have a sound blanket behind my desk. It was the easiest way just to cover up the rack that's above there. It's a closet rack. I took out the rod and put in a steel rod over my head so I can attach different brackets to it. But I took the less beefy rod down and put up a new rod. So if I ever use this as a bedroom again, I'll have to put the doors back on. But I'm using the sound blanket just because it darkens the back, it hides cords, and they're great for soundproofing. And I do have a sound panel over here in the corner, and then I have curtains back here that were designed to help cut down sound off the back wall. And I still need to do more sound treatment in here. My ceiling's very tall at 9 feet, so that really cuts down a lot of the ceiling sound. And the Shure SM7B and my Rodecaster Pro does a really good job of squeezing out all the background noise when I'm not talking. So any questions that you guys have tonight? I am going to be doing some cable management. I am going to be doing a HyperDeck fan upgrade. You're going to be able to see videos of all that, so stay tuned. I am also going to be doing my HyperDeck Mini series. Again, I got to play with it. I want to test mix effect with it and see if there's anything that Adam and I need to talk about to get it up and running with his app, because I'm going to actually have mix effect controlling 2 HyperDecks, which is great because he's enabled it so that you can have multiple HyperDecks, just like you can have multiple HyperDecks in your control software. So again, lots and lots of cool things. So that's kind of that. Let's see. Do I have multi-view? Nope. I don't have multi-view here. Cutting back to my Skycam. just on my monitor here. So again, that's kind of what's coming up. Next week, I want to talk to you about the cable management. I also want to do some more demo of the HyperDeck and let you hear before and after in my studio what it sounds like right now. And I'm going to record that without any limiting or anything like that, like I have on right now. And then I'm going to play the same thing. I'm going to share the noise after. Microphone's going to be positioned in the exact same place before and after the update. And I am going to video the update. I'm not going to do an uploaded video. Go over to Tony's video if you'd like to see an upgrade video. I am going to show footage in my live because I want you guys to see it in next week's live, me updating that HyperDeck. And so I'll cut to that video during our live show and let you guys see that. I won't make you sit through all of it, but I'm going to show you the fan update, show you soldering and things like that so you can see some of the steps you have to take. It's not that complicated. 4 screws, I believe Tony said, 4 wires, and they do have to be spliced and cut. So again, the new fan is going to have to be spliced into the old wires, and Tony has a diagram in his video of what wires go with which. And so I will verify with Tony I have the right fan, even though I did order that fan from the same model number that he had on his site through my wife's Amazon account, Prime account. So anyway, so we talked about the HyperDeck coming up. We've talked about my cable management. You saw footage of how ugly it looks. We have talked about integrating my ATEM Mini Pro with my Extreme ISO, and I've talked about some of the pluses in the HyperDeck. I am a little confused about why when you push play twice on the new HyperDeck, that little button, one number comes up with the loop, and that's not what happens on my HyperDeck Mini, so I will probably be having to sort that out. But so anyway, that's all I had for tonight. I do want to take a few minutes for some Q&A before we go. So if you guys have any questions, I would love to hear any of those remaining ones. Thank you for that link, Craig. I will copy that and just saved it to my phone. And I should be able to access that link after we're off the air. So any questions, guys, about the integration of the 2 decks? And Adam, I don't know if you're doing that. I would love to hear in the comments if you're still on live with us. And maybe I can have Adam on. Adam has an Extreme ISO and I believe an ATEM Mini Pro. He also now has a little interface so he can bring in SDI from his Mac. I believe Adam, you have a Mac Mini, I think, in your studio as well. So let us know in the comments. So I'd love to know how you're using, if you're using 2 ATEMs, if you have like a Mini and a Pro, or a Mini and a Pro ISO, if you're using an Extreme and Extreme ISO with some of the older decks, I would love to know how you're integrating them. I've been racking my brain now for months since my Extreme arrived, how I can integrate those two. Also, how I can broadcast to another location. Or broadcast to my streaming bridge if I wanted someone else to manage the show. So lots of things I'm thinking about. I also want to have some of my clients be able, from their Extremes and their ATEM Mini Pros and ATEM Mini Pro ISOs, to be able to broadcast in here, so we can do some practicing a show, and I would be able to record it here in my studio, or even broadcast it for them from my studio, which is exactly what Petra said in his live stream this week about his studio. He actually broadcasts for a church. So their input comes in to his studio, and Petra sends that broadcast out, and I'll put a link to Petra's channel here in the notes tonight. You can check that out later. If you haven't joined him for his lives, he's got some amazing things going on in his studio. He's got a mobile rig. He's got people streaming into his studio. He has some high-end gear that he's working with a manufacturer that brings things in NDI, I believe. And so very exciting stuff. So it's cool to hear how you guys are upgrading and updating. I would love to know more about that. I'm going to do some video on that switch when it gets here, that Ori 1 in and 4 out. So you'll see me unbox that here as well in the studio. I've got 4 or 5 videos getting ready to get uploaded here in the next week or two. I just need to finish shooting and editing all of those pieces. And then, like I said, very soon, my new HyperDeck Studio HD PLUS is going to be coming out. So my ports are camera, iPad, iPhone, iPod Touch, Mac, Apple TV, Xbox, Zoom ISO 2, Zoom ISO 1, and I swapped my Apple TV and my Xbox with Zoom ISO 3 and 4 if necessary, and I need a 16-port ATEM that's quiet. Yeah, I know, exactly, Adam. So are you switching? Do you have these devices hooked up all the time, and you just have a switch like I have in the studio so I can take one input and send it to one of the channels, or I can switch to the other one? I'm curious to know, Adam, how you're doing that. But there's so many different things you can do in your studio, and that's why we're talking about these things live, and I'm sharing what I'm doing. Practice makes perfect. I don't have all the solutions. You may not even be using an ATEM. You might be using a YOLO box. You might be using a cam link into your PC, your Macintosh. I don't know how you're streaming. You might be streaming from your phone, and there's some cool apps to do that. So again, there's so many options for how to stream. I'm just using Blackmagic products and expanding very soon into using Companion a lot more. So also, Adam's been working on a new Companion. I think it's called a script or a group of buttons that's downloadable right now, I believe. Adam, let me know in the notes if that has been approved or it's still the beta version. And you're welcome to put a link on how to get to that mix effect integration with Companion. There's some steps you have to take, so go and watch Adam's video on his channel about the steps you have to take inside Mix Effects to make sure you have things turned on. And then he recommends that you tether your iPad to your network rather than going through wireless, just to stop having issues with Companion. So I've started that process, Adam, just FYI. So thank you for always adding new features to Mix Effects. And if you didn't know, Mix Effect also has the ability through a number of steps. Adam has a video on his channel as well about how you can have multi-view actually on your iPad. So you could have multi-view open on your iPad if you were on a table or away from your desk. So the other thing too, if you're wondering how to do multiple desks, Petra's doing that. He has 2 stations. I know that Aaron Precky has 2 stations, so he can get up from one desk, turn on his lapel mic, his Rode Lav 2+2, and run over to his desk. I actually have a desk that I set up here, unboxing desk, and I'll put up my boom mic, and I can switch as well. I just rotate camera 1 from this direction to pointing straight behind me, so everybody can see the table, and this camera stays typically where it's at. Sometimes I raise it for another camera angle, and I usually move my sky cam over there so that it can be close up on my desk. So, well, guys, I can tell by my voice that it's been an hour. I need to drink more. So again, come with questions, man. If you have a question or something you'd like me to cover in my studio, please put it in the comments after this video goes live. Let's continue the conversation. Thank you for your input tonight. Thank you for your questions. If you have any more, you can see Adam responding to my question, no switches, unplug cables, and need a quiet video hub device. Yeah, so again, if you want to see the video hub that Blackmagic Design has available, the 20 in and 20 out Aaron Parecki uses that. He did a good studio tour last week and shared all about his video hub. He also did a companion button to do a replay on a single HyperDeck. Now understand this, and I had a question last week about replaying on a HyperDeck. If you only have one HyperDeck, you have to be in play mode or record mode. So if you're recording an event and you want to play back a clip by making a macro or making a companion macro, which is what Aaron did live in his live stream, just realize you're not recording anymore. So you're going to need two HyperDecks if you want to continue to record one while you replay another one, and just realize you're going to probably have to have macros bouncing back and forth. So replay one, then you're going to hit another macro button or companion button to go to Stream Deck 2 to do replay 2. And then while that's happening, your other HyperDeck is now recording again. And what he did is created a button to go back 7 seconds. So it would record for 7 seconds. And then he did 50% slow-mo. So he had to actually wait a little bit longer before he hit that button. So all that was programmed into Companion, and it was crazy to watch him doing that live. Now you may wait to have the HyperDeck HD PLUS updated in Companion, because he had to go back and create a macro in his HyperDeck Mini, because Companion right now doesn't have an integration with the new HD Plus or the newer HyperDecks that I've seen since Aaron's live. So Master Park, thank you for joining me tonight. So it looks like you guys are just chatting. Thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to know how to integrate two HyperDecks with motion graphics at the same time, one of my projects this week is I'm going to have a number of graphics that will play live next week. I'm going to do a graphic that comes across the screen and crosses each other. I'm going to do a graphic that starts with one HyperDeck and then adds the other HyperDeck in a macro button. And I'm going to actually have a lower thirds that's animated, as well as be able to play moving graphics behind my super source next week. So all of that is going to be very exciting. That will also be in my HyperDeck HD Plus, Studio HD Plus series. So make sure you come back to the channel here in the next month or so and check that series out. So if there's not any final questions tonight, if you don't have any other Q&A, we're going to wrap this up. I thank you so much for joining me. Adam, thank you for joining me. Thank you, Tony, for joining me from QuickTech. Craig, for joining me. Master Park, first time I think you have joined me tonight. We didn't have any spam happening in the chat like last week. That's great. Let's see. Am I missing anybody else? Craig, I think I said hi. And I don't see any other questions. Guys, I hope that we'll have more questions in the future. Hopefully you'll invite some of your people you influence to the live stream every Tuesday at 4 o'clock here Pacific Standard Time. And I try to be on every week. I think I've only missed one week so far since I went live here on YouTube. So again, I apologize. I haven't had a lot of uploaded videos, but I've been waiting for some of these projects to start. And I'm really excited. So now I have the cable management video that I'm going to be working on. I have my HyperDeck series videos I'm going to be working on. Mix effects with HyperDeck. We're going to be talking about the integration between my ATEM Mini Pro. I'm going to do a video on how all that's hooked up. And actually, once I have labels on everything, you're going to see that. And then I have that animating graphics with two HyperDecks. That's going to be a video as well, and even more that I haven't even talked about, which we'll talk about in the future. And then next week, don't forget, you're going to see footage of me updating my fan to this quiet fan. And if you haven't seen that video that Tony did, go over to Tony's channel on Quick Tech Solutions and watch his video that he uploaded last week on him updating his HyperDeck Studio Mini, the old version. And be aware, it will void your warranty. So, well, that's it for me, unless there's any questions. So any ideas on Matrix? Tony, you're the one that gave me the information on the Ori, and I actually installed an Ori system in a church up in Snohomish, Washington, and they're using it to send signals remotely through CAT to 4 different monitors, one above their sound booth, one in the back fellowship hall, one in their coffee room. And then the plan is either to put one in their lobby or one up on closer to the platform as a confidence monitor. And they're still learning how to stream through their ATEM Mini Extreme. They don't have an ISO. And so they're learning that, but their main use was to be able to broadcast throughout their building, because in that area over there, a lot of times the only way they're going to be able to meet is to be in separate rooms in the building, 6 feet apart, and that's a whole nother conversation. So they're ready for that, and they're also ready to stream and have been streaming on Facebook, which is exciting that I got to be a part of that. And so I use the Ori extender to do that. And that's pretty cool. It has 2 outputs. And so that one comes back into their studio monitors, and the other one goes to all those room monitors. So that's all I have, guys. Just make sure I haven't missed any questions. So great to have you all here. Great to be able to be live together. And I'm hoping to have some live guests soon. I'll say one other thing. I want to test at the same time. Adam, you'll like this. Tony, you'll like this. I want to test at the same time the streaming bridge, right? And bringing a guest in through Zoom. So I'll be set up now to bring a guest through channel 3 coming into my streaming bridge from my ATEM Mini Pro, and then also using channel 4 in my Extreme to bring my desktop guest in using OBS. I can also use Video Ninja, which is a plugin in OBS that you can get for free. And it seems Video Ninja seems to be one of people's favorite ways. And so I can now be able to bring a guest in through my streaming bridge, as well as a guest in at the same time using Zoom, which we would be using Zoom as a communication device anyway, because you don't really have that with the streaming bridge. And if you want to learn more about that, I'll put some links to some really good videos and conversations that even Adam had, as well as Aaron Parecki, Here to Record, John Barker, Petra, and all of those guys, and how they're bringing guests in their studio, which is fascinating. That's the biggest growth we're seeing right now, I think. And hopefully Blackmagic Design is going to be announcing some new devices really soon. I don't have any inside information. I just have a gut feeling, and we'll see. So the trade show was canceled, but doesn't mean that we're not going to hear some news very soon from Blackmagic Design. So until next week, this is Life Journey Production Studios. My name is Keith, and I thank you for joining me here in tonight's live stream. And I hope you have a blessed week, a great day, great night, some of you, whatever time zones you're in. And I can't wait to share some of these projects with you very, very soon. Until then, I'm out. Mix Effects, outro, roll.